Lucy stood at the doors of the maternity ward with her newborn baby in her arms and a duffel bag at her feet. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at her phone, listening for the third time to the voicemail that had shattered her life. "Where do I go now with my little boy?" she whispered between sobs, not knowing what answer to give little Matthew, who slept peacefully in her arms. The harsh afternoon Los Angeles sun beat down on her, and she needed to quickly decide what to do. Just then, a luxurious black SUV pulled up right in front of her. A tall, elegant man stepped out holding a gigantic bouquet of red roses. When he got closer and she saw his face, Lucy couldn't believe her eyes. Hello and welcome to another story. Before we begin, let us know in the comments what city and state you're listening from. It's always a joy to find out where our beloved listeners are tuning in from. Lucy stared at the 4 pregnancy tests scattered across the bathroom, sync all positive. Her heart was racing, not out of fear, but out of pure joy. At 26, she was finally going to fulfill her dream of becoming a mother, and she was sure Mark would be just as thrilled as she was. After all, they had been talking about having kids for a long time. She carefully put the tests in her purse and headed to her doctor's appointment. Dr. Miller confirmed what she already knew: 9 weeks pregnant. "Congratulations, honey. What a wonderful age to become a mother. Here are your lab slips and the referral for your ultrasound. Come back next week for a follow-up." Lucy floated out of the clinic on cloud 9. She could barely contain her happiness. On her drive home, she decided she wouldn't tell anyone just yet. First, she'd get all the blood work done, make sure everything was fine with the baby, and only then would she share the news with her mom and her best friend, Chloe. But Mark had to know today. She would cook a special dinner with all his favorite foods and break the news in an unforgettable way. She called him, buzzing with excitement. "Hey babe, what time are you getting home tonight?" Mark answered with his usual laid-back voice. "Around 6. "Why?" Lucy smiled mischievously. "I have some news for you, but I'm only telling you tonight." He laughed on the other end of the line. "At least tell me if it's good news. It's fantastic." "You're going to love it," she assured him before hanging up. Walking out of Trader Joe's, Lucy bumped into someone familiar. "Oh my gosh, Alex, I'm so sorry, I almost knocked you over." It was her old high school friend, now an imposing man, nearly 6'4" with broad shoulders. Alex had always been a big guy, but now he looked even more impressive. "Hey Lucy, is everything okay? You're glowing today. Did you win the lottery?" He smiled with that same warmth he had always had. "No, just in a really good mood," she replied, genuinely happy to see him. Alex had been a great friend in high school, always attentive, always around when she needed him. Now, he owned a highly successful financial consulting firm. "It's so great to see you too, Alex. It's been way too long." They chatted briefly before saying their goodbyes. Lucy spent the whole afternoon prepping the perfect dinner. She cooked Mark's favorite meal, set the table with candles, and put on some soft background music. Everything had to be flawless for the moment she told him they were going to be parents. She mentally rehearsed how she would drop the news, imagining his reaction, the tight hug, the kisses, the shared happiness. Mark walked in close to 8:00 p.m., 2 hours late. Lucy was already anxious. "Sorry I'm late." "Rehearsal ran way over," he said, looking exhausted. Mark was an actor, or at least trying to be. Over the last few years, he had only managed to land bit parts in indie films and small theater productions, which often left him frustrated and moody. "Don't worry, babe. I made a special dinner. Come look." Lucy took him by the hand and led him to the kitchen. Mark looked at the set table and frowned. "Lucy, I'm beat. Can I just take a shower first? I really wish you'd given me a heads up before going all out like this." Her excitement deflated a little, but she managed a smile. "Sure, go ahead. We can eat after and I'll tell you the news." "What news?" he asked without much interest. Already walking toward the bathroom. "The news I mentioned on the phone." Lucy hoped he'd show a little more curiosity, a little more excitement, but Mark just waved his hand dismissively and shut the bathroom door behind him. She stood there holding the glass of juice she had poured for him, feeling that first sting of disappointment. While she waited, Lucy mentally prepped what she was going to say. Maybe he was just tired. After a shower and a good meal, he'd be in a better mood, and once he heard about the pregnancy, all that fatigue would wash away, replaced by the joy of knowing he was going to be a dad. At least, that's what she wanted to believe. Mark came out of the bathroom half an hour later. Lucy served dinner and they sat down. She noticed some scratches on his back when he took off his button-down to throw on a t-shirt. "What happened to your back?" she asked curiously. Mark didn't even hesitate. "Oh, probably from wardrobe. I had to wear this crazy outfit today with all these metal snaps and they must have scratched me." Lucy accepted the explanation and served the food. They ate in relative silence, with Mark seeming distant. Finally, he looked at her and asked, "So, what's this news you were dying to tell me?" Lucy's heart raced. This was the moment. She smiled mysteriously. "Try to guess. It's something we've dreamed about for years." Mark thought for a second, looking up at the ceiling. "I don't know. We finally booked that vacation we were planning? We're finally going to Hawaii?" Lucy shook her head. "No, babe. Think of something else we've always wanted." He scratched his head, clearly clueless. "A new car? But we definitely don't have the cash for that." "Mark, remember our biggest dream? What we always talked about for our future?" Lucy was starting to feel discouraged by his lack of enthusiasm. He kept thinking, "Getting nowhere. I give up. Just tell me." She took a deep breath and smiled, trying to salvage the magic of the moment. "We're having a baby. I'm 9 weeks pregnant." The silence that followed was deafening. Mark froze with his fork suspended in the air, staring at her with an expression Lucy couldn't read. It wasn't happiness. She was sure of that. "You're pregnant?" he repeated, as if he needed to confirm he'd heard correctly. "Yes, I went to the doctor today. It's confirmed. We're going to be parents, babe." "But how?" Mark dropped his fork onto his plate with a loud clatter. "What do you mean, how?" "The normal way, Mark. We've never used protection because you always said you wanted to have kids with me." Lucy started feeling a tightness in her chest. This wasn't the reaction she had expected. Not at all. "I said I wanted to have kids?" he asked, genuinely shocked. "Mark, we've talked about this multiple times. You never pushed back. You always nodded when I talked about having a family." Lucy felt the first tears burning her eyes. "Nodding and actually wanting it are two different things, Lucy. I just bobbed my head when you talked. I never explicitly said I wanted it right now." Every word was like a knife to her heart. "But you don't want our baby?" Lucy's voice trembled. Mark sighed heavily, rubbing his hands over his face. "It's not that I don't want it, it's just, we're way too young. How are we going to support a kid right now? My career hasn't taken off yet. You work as a freelance graphic designer. We don't have stability." Lucy couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Mark, we have my grandpa's condo. I have savings. Of course we can do this. And you always said you wanted to build a family with me." She was desperate, trying to make him understand. "Lucy, I can't handle this right now. It's too much responsibility. Have you thought about, not going through with the pregnancy?" The question dropped like a bomb. "Are you asking me to give up our child?" Lucy stood up from the table, tears now falling freely. "How could you even suggest something like that?" Mark realized he had crossed a line. He quickly changed his tune, standing up and stepping toward her. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. It was just the shock, the surprise. Of course we can have the baby. Are you sure? Because I am not giving this baby up, Mark. With or without you, I am having my child." Lucy stood firm in her decision, despite her broken heart. Mark hugged her, faking an affection that didn't feel genuine. "I'm sure. We're going to have this baby. It's gonna be great, you'll see. I just need time to wrap my head around it. It was just very sudden." In the following days, Mark seemed more excited about the pregnancy, or at least he acted like it. Lucy wanted to believe he had truly changed his mind and was happy about the baby's arrival. She shared the news with her mom, Susan, who was overjoyed at the thought of becoming a grandmother, though she voiced some concerns about Mark. "Honey, are you sure he's ready to be a father? You guys aren't even married." Susan approached the subject delicately. "Mom, we don't need a piece of paper to be a family. What matters is that we love each other, and we're going to take great care of our son." Lucy instinctively defended Mark, even though she knew her mom had reasons to worry. Her best friend, Chloe, was much more blunt when she found out. "Lucy, are you absolutely positive you want to have a kid with Mark? He can barely support himself. How is he going to support a whole family? Lucy felt offended. Chloe, why do you never give him the benefit of the doubt? He's changing. He's more responsible now. Responsible? Lucy, he's been living off you for years. You pay the rent, you pay the bills, he drives your car, he lives in your condo. And what does he do? Bit parts in theater, plays that barely pay for his coffee. Chloe was always brutally honest. He's trying, Chloe. Acting is tough, and now with the baby, he's going to hustle harder. I hope you're right, but I have a really bad gut feeling about all this. Chloe crossed her arms, looking at her friend dead seriously. Promise me you'll keep your eyes open, that you won't let him play you? Lucy sighed. I promise, but you're wrong about him. Just wait, you'll see what a great dad he's going to be. Chloe just shook her head, clearly unconvinced. A week later, Mark came to her with an unexpected proposal. Babe, I was thinking. This condo only has 2 bedrooms. With the baby, it's going to get cramped. What if we sell it and buy a bigger place? A 3-bedroom would be perfect. Lucy was taken aback. She had inherited that condo from her grandfather. It held immense sentimental value. But Mark made a fair point. I don't know, Mark. This was my grandpa's place. I have so many memories here, she hesitated. I get it. But think about our son. He's going to need his own spacious room in a good school district. We could sell this place and use the cash as a down payment for a nice house in the valley and just get a mortgage for the rest. Mark spoke with conviction, as if he had it all figured out. Lucy thought about it for days. Finally, she decided to bring it up with her mom. Susan didn't like the idea at all, but said she respected her daughter's choice. I just think you should wait until the baby is born before making such massive changes. And Lucy, the deed is in your name. Are you absolutely sure you want to sell it? There was genuine worry in her mother's voice. Mom, the condo is mine, but when we sell it and buy a new place, it'll be ours. Mine and Mark's. We're a family now, Lucy had made up her mind. Susan sighed deeply. All right, sweetie. Just promise me you'll be careful with everything. Read every single document before you sign anything. Lucy promised, having no idea how much she would regret not following that advice to the letter. Mark was ecstatic when she agreed. He immediately started browsing real estate listings. He took Lucy to tour a few open houses. He was hyper-enthusiastic about the move. Lucy felt so happy seeing him so involved, so excited about their future together. It seemed like he was finally stepping up, thinking about the family they were building. They found the perfect house, 3 bedrooms in a quiet, leafy neighborhood close to parks and good schools. It was move-in ready. This is the one, Lucy. Look at this spacious kitchen, the huge backyard. Our kid is going to grow up here and be so happy. Mark was beaming, and Lucy allowed herself to dream of that future. However, right as they were about to finalize the sale and go into escrow, a major issue arose. Lucy started having complications with the pregnancy and was admitted to the hospital with a threatened miscarriage. She panicked, stuck in a hospital bed on bed rest, terrified they'd lose the chance to buy the house they loved so much. That was when Mark suggested something that would change everything. Lucy, I have a solution, Mark said while visiting her at the hospital. Can you sign a power of attorney so I can represent you in the sale of the condo and the closing for the new house? That way I can handle the real estate agents and escrow while you just rest and take care of our baby. Lucy hesitated. Giving him a general power of attorney with full real estate rights felt like a monumental, heavy decision. Are you sure that's necessary? She asked, still unsure. Babe, it's the only way. The house we want will go to another buyer if we delay. And the doctors were clear. You need absolute bed rest. I just want to take care of our family. Mark spoke with such sincerity that Lucy felt selfish for even doubting him. Okay, how do we do that from the hospital? Mark smiled, relieved. The realtor knows a notary public who can come right here to your room to draft the paperwork. You just have to sign, and I'll take care of the rest. You won't have to stress about a thing. Lucy agreed, and the next day, the notary showed up with the documents. She signed without reading them closely, putting her complete trust in Mark. Chloe rushed to visit her the moment she heard about the hospitalization. When Lucy mentioned the power of attorney, her best friend went pale. What did you do, Lucy? You gave Mark a power of attorney with the right to sell your property? Chloe's voice was elevated, bordering on panic. Yes, He needs to represent me for the sale and the closing. Why are you getting so worked up? Lucy, do you not realize what you've done? You gave him the legal power to sell your condo and do whatever he wants with the cash. He could literally just vanish with everything. Chloe was visibly distressed. Lucy felt a surge of anger. How can you even think something like that? Mark is the father of my child. He would never do that to me. Lucy, I know you don't want to hear this, but I have to say it. That guy has been mooching off you for years. And now you've handed him the keys to your entire net worth. Please tell me you're at least going to monitor the bank accounts. Chloe tried to grab her friend's hand, but Lucy pulled away. I am so sick of this, Chloe. Sick of you always painting Mark as the villain. He's changed. He's taking care of me and the baby. Taking care of you? Where is he right now, Lucy? How many times has he actually visited you since you got admitted? Chloe asked the question Lucy had been avoiding asking herself. The truth was, Mark had only shown up twice in an entire week, always armed with excuses about rehearsals, meetings, paperwork. He's busy getting everything set up for us. You just don't get it. I get it more than you think. You know what? When David was alive, he always warned me about users and opportunists. I just wish you had someone who actually loved you, the way Alex has always loved you. Chloe brought up her late boyfriend, and Lucy saw an opening to strike back. Well, at least I have someone, Chloe. You just live stuck in the past. The words tumbled out before Lucy could stop them. Chloe froze, her eyes filling with tears. How could you say that? She whispered. Lucy instantly regretted it. But the damage was done. No, it's fine. I get it. When you need me again, and you will, I don't know if I'll be around. Chloe walked out of the room without looking back. Lucy was left entirely alone, feeling awful for hurting her best friend. But she was just so tired of everyone doubting Mark, tired of defending him constantly. Why couldn't anyone see how much he had changed? Why wouldn't anyone believe he truly loved her and wanted to build a family with her? Those questions hammered in her brain. The days in the hospital dragged on. Mark would call every now and then, always in a rush, always saying he was sorting everything out for their benefit. Lucy received text messages with photos of the new house, updates on the escrow of her old condo. Everything seemed to be progressing smoothly. She forced herself to believe she had made the right choice, that Mark deserved her trust. Finally, after 2 weeks, the doctors cleared her to go home. You're going to be fine, but you need to stay on bed rest and avoid any stress. The pregnancy is stable, but any severe emotional spikes could be dangerous, Dr. Miller warned her. Lucy thanked her and packed her things, eager to finally see how the move was going and start setting up the nursery. Months passed, and Lucy focused on her pregnancy. To her surprise, Mark actually seemed more present and attentive. He helped her with heavy lifting, drove her to OB/GYN appointments, and made plans for the nursery. Even Susan started to soften, admitting that maybe Mark really was turning a new leaf. Only Chloe remained distant, making no contact since their painful fight. The move to the new house happened without a hitch. It was beautiful, spacious, perfect for a family. Lucy felt so grateful that Mark had handled all the heavy lifting while she recovered. They decorated the nursery with love, a white crib, cloud-patterned wallpaper, colorful mobiles. Everything was ready to welcome little Matthew. At her final appointment before her due date, the doctor gave the green light. He could come any day now, Lucy. Pay attention to the signs, and when your water breaks or contractions get regular, head straight to the ER. She walked out of the clinic feeling anxious but thrilled. She was finally going to meet her son. She was going to be a mother, and Mark was going to be a father. They were going to be a real family. One night, Lucy woke up feeling something strange. She looked down and realized her water had broken. Mark, wake up. It's time. He shot up out of bed, panicking, grabbing the hospital bags they had packed weeks ago. He called an ambulance, which arrived quickly. On the ride to the hospital, Lucy squeezed Mark's hand, terrified and overwhelmed with emotion. The delivery was long and brutal. Matthew was born after 8 hours of intense labor, a beautiful, healthy baby boy. But Lucy suffered complications and required stitches. You'll need to stay hospitalized for 5 or 6 days until we can remove the stitches, the doctor informed her. Lucy nodded, resigned, though all she wanted was to go home with her baby. Mark visited her the first day. He met Matthew, took pictures, and seemed happy, but something in his eyes looked off. "Are you okay?" Lucy asked, noticing his distant vibe. Yeah, just exhausted. It's been a long night." He kissed her forehead and left shortly after, saying he had to go sort out some paperwork. Lucy was left with a weird feeling in her gut, but chalked it up to postpartum exhaustion. On the second day, Mark didn't show. He called, saying he was swamped with an important audition and apologized. The third day, same thing. Lucy started to worry and feel deeply hurt. Why wasn't he coming to see his son? Why was he pulling away right now, when she needed his support the most? The nurses tried to comfort her, saying a lot of new dads get overwhelmed by newborns. It was on the fourth day that her entire world collapsed. An older nurse walked into the room to bring Matthew back from the nursery and casually remarked, "I'm so glad you changed your mind about getting rid of the baby, honey. You made the right choice." Lucy stared at her, utterly confused. "Excuse me? What are you talking about? I never wanted to get rid of my baby." The nurse looked surprised. "But when you came in with a threatened miscarriage, your toxicology report showed." "Showed what?" Lucy was starting to panic. "There were substances in your blood, abortifacients. Like you had ingested something to induce a miscarriage. We nurses just assumed you must have changed your mind and sought help in time. That's why we were able to save the baby." The nurse kept talking, but Lucy could no longer process the words. Her reality was crumbling. When the nurse finally left, Lucy began mentally retracing the days before her first hospitalization. She hadn't eaten or drunk anything outside the house. She always drank from her own water bottle and ate her own snacks. That meant, no, it couldn't be. Mark wouldn't do that. He wouldn't try to. The tears began to fall as the cruel reality locked into place. He had tried to make her lose the baby. Lucy's hands shook violently as she grabbed her phone. She needed to talk to someone. She needed help. She needed to understand what the hell was happening. But who could she call? Chloe was still hurt. Her mom had high blood pressure, and news like this could trigger a medical emergency. Lucy felt entirely alone, betrayed, and utterly lost. What had she done to deserve this? Lucy stayed awake the entire night, battling horrific thoughts. By morning, she decided she had to talk to Chloe. No matter how hard it was to swallow her pride, she dialed her number with trembling fingers. "Please don't hang up." There was silence on the other end. "I need you so much. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Can you ever forgive me, Chloe?" Chloe's voice was thick with emotion. "I knew something bad was going to happen." "What did he do?" Lucy broke down sobbing. "I can't talk about it over the phone. Can you come here when they discharge me? I need your help, your brain, your strength. I've been a complete idiot, and you were right about everything." Chloe took a deep breath on the other end of the line. "When do you get discharged?" "Tomorrow, early afternoon," Lucy replied between sobs. "Are you going back to the new house?" Chloe asked, and there was something weird in her tone. "Yeah." "Why?" Lucy didn't understand the question. "Nothing. Just. I'll be there at 3:00 p.m. Just hold on until then." "Okay." Chloe hung up, leaving Lucy confused but a tiny bit relieved. At least she had her best friend back. Later that day, Lucy tried calling Mark multiple times. It went straight to voicemail. Finally, she left a text. "Mark, I need to talk to you urgently. Please call me." Hours ticked by with no response. Just as it was nearing midnight, a notification popped up. It wasn't a call. It was an audio message. Lucy pressed play, her heart in her throat. "Lucy, sorry to do it like this, but I just didn't have the guts to say this to your face." Mark's voice sounded distant, ice cold. "The truth is, I never wanted a kid. That was your decision, not mine. I figured with time you'd realize I had zero interest in being a dad, but you kept pushing. I tried giving you signs, but you just refused to see them." Lucy sat paralyzed, unable to believe her ears. "I should have broken up with you a long time ago, but it was just comfortable. You took care of everything, you paid the rent, you gave me a safety net while I tried to get my career off the ground. But the truth is, I've been seeing someone else, Lucy. We've been together for 4 years. She's an actress too, we just get each other better. And we've decided to finally go public." Every syllable was a dagger to Lucy's chest. "As for the house, I sold it. I took the cash and I've already moved to a different state with her. You've got your mom, you have a big place you can stay at, you won't need me. Oh, and about the paternity stuff, I already signed away my parental rights. You can put whatever name you want on the birth certificate. I don't care. Good luck, Lucy. You'll figure it out. And the message ended. Lucy sat frozen on the hospital bed, gripping her phone, feeling like all the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. He had sold the house, her condo, her grandfather's inheritance, the home where she had grown up, where she had planned to raise her son. Mark had stolen absolutely everything from her and skipped town with another woman. And on top of it all, he had poisoned her to try and kill her unborn child. What kind of monster does that to someone who loves them? The tears came in violent waves. Lucy wept for the betrayal, for her own naivety, for the sheer stupidity of having trusted blindly. She cried for Chloe, who had tried to warn her and whom she had pushed away. She cried for her mother, whose home would now be crashed by a daughter and a newborn. She cried for Matthew, who would grow up without a father. And she cried for herself, for having been so easily played, used, and discarded. A nurse walked in and found Lucy in a state of shock. "Honey, what happened? Are you okay?" Lucy could barely form the words. "My life is over. Everything I had. Everything I built. He took it all." The nurse sat beside her and wrapped her arms around her. "Listen to me. You have your son. As long as you have breath in your lungs, there's hope. And based on how hard you fought in that delivery room, I know you're strong. You will survive this." But Lucy didn't feel strong. She felt obliterated, humiliated, shattered into a million pieces. How was she going to face her mother? How would she explain she'd been conned so easily? How would she rebuild her life from zero, now with a newborn relying on her? The unanswered questions echoed in her mind as the night dragged on, endless. Every minute was an eternity of agony and regret. Morning finally broke. But to Lucy, it felt like the sun would never shine the same way again. The doctor came in, removed her stitches, and gave her final discharge instructions. "You're good to go. Take care of yourself, and if you need anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out." Lucy thanked her mechanically and began packing her things. The hospital staff handed her Matthew's paperwork. She looked down at him, sleeping peacefully in the bassinet. At least she had him. Lucy walked out the sliding doors of the maternity ward, carrying Matthew in her arms and gripping her duffel bag in her other hand. Every step physically and emotionally hurt. She stopped on the sidewalk, looking out at the busy Los Angeles traffic. The autumn sun was harsh, unseasonably hot. Where was she supposed to go? To her mom's house, obviously. But how was she going to get there? She'd have to order an Uber. As she fumbled for her phone in her bag, the crushing weight of her reality hit her with full force. She was homeless. She no longer had the condo she grew up in. She no longer had Mark, who had unmasked himself as a liar, a thief, and a monster capable of trying to terminate his own child. She was totally alone, vulnerable, holding a newborn who completely depended on her. "Where do I go now with my little boy?" she whispered, the tears flooding back. She dropped her bag on the concrete, clutching Matthew tightly to her chest, and began to sob openly on the sidewalk. People walked past, casting pitying glances, but no one stopped. It was just another sad scene outside an LA hospital, just another tragedy in a massive, indifferent city. Lucy wiped her face with the back of her hand, trying to pull herself together. She had to be strong for her son. She had to keep moving no matter how impossible it felt. That was when the luxurious black SUV pulled up directly in front of her. The windows were heavily tinted. It was impossible to see who was inside. Lucy assumed it was someone picking up another patient, but then the driver's side door swung open. A tall man stepped out, holding an enormous bouquet of red roses. The arrangement was so massive that at first, she couldn't even see his face. "I hope you weren't planning on taking an Uber with a newborn," a voice said. Something about that voice was intensely familiar, but Lucy's brain couldn't process it. She was too exhausted, too emotionally fried. "It's not very safe for babies that small to ride in strangers' cars," the man continued, still hidden behind the flowers. Lucy felt a spike of irritation. Who was this guy to lecture her? "I don't exactly have another option," she replied, her voice ragged. "There's always an option," the man said. And then he lowered the roses, revealing his face. Lucy blinked rapidly, convinced she was hallucinating. Alex. She could barely believe it. Hey, Lucy. I came to pick you and Matthew up. He smiled that warm, familiar smile she remembered from high school. What? What are you doing here? Who told you? She was completely baffled. I know you have a million questions, but first, let's get you in the car. You shouldn't be standing, especially holding the baby and that heavy bag. Alex grabbed her duffel and tossed it in the trunk. Then he gently helped Lucy into the passenger seat, which already had a nursing pillow and extra cushions strategically placed so she could sit comfortably after her delivery. Did you plan all this? She asked, dumbfounded. I planned a few things. Yeah. Alex replied mysteriously as he got in the driver's seat and put the SUV in drive. Lucy quickly noticed he was navigating directly toward her mom's house without even asking for the address. How did he know? A tornado of questions spun in her head, but she was too exhausted to speak them out loud. Alex, I don't understand any of this. What's going on? He glanced at her in the rearview mirror and smiled. You'll understand everything soon enough. For now, just relax. You and Matthew are safe. There was something in his voice, a certainty, a layer of protection that Lucy hadn't felt in years. She looked at the roses resting on the center console and at her baby sleeping soundly in her arms. Alex's phone rang through the car's Bluetooth. He tapped the screen. Yeah, we're pulling up in 5 minutes. He hung up without saying another word. When the SUV parked outside her mom's apartment building, Lucy saw a sight that completely blew her mind. Her mother, Susan, was standing on the sidewalk holding a giant bouquet of Mylar balloons, and right beside her was Chloe, her best friend, waving and grinning from ear to ear. What? Lucy started, but the words caught in her throat. How were they all here? How did they know she was arriving at this exact moment? Susan practically sprinted to the car the second Alex opened the door. My grandson. Let me see my beautiful grandbaby. She gently took Matthew into her arms, tears of pure joy spilling over her cheeks. Chloe helped Lucy out of the SUV, wrapping her in a fierce, crushing hug. Welcome back, bestie. I have so much to tell you. Lucy was in a daze, trying to make sense of this scene so vastly different from the nightmare she had anticipated. Inside Susan's apartment, Lucy was guided to the sofa, where she sat down gingerly, still sore. Chloe sat right next to her, gripping her hand. Alex remained standing, leaning against the wall, watching the reunion with a soft smile. Susan was completely absorbed by her grandson, cooing and whispering sweet nonsense to little Matthew. The confusion in Lucy's brain reached a boiling point. Can someone please explain to me what the hell is going on? She finally asked, looking from one face to the next. Chloe took a deep breath and began. Remember when I called you the other day asking if Mark had gone out of town? It's because someone tipped me off that they saw him with another woman. It wasn't the first rumor I'd heard, but this time, I decided to actually dig into it. Lucy felt a sick knot form in her stomach. I called Alex. He has a ton of connections in the financial and real estate world, and I knew he could help me figure out what Mark was actually doing. Alex found out that Mark had put the title of the new house strictly in his name. Not both of your names like you thought. Just his. That was a massive red flag. Chloe paused, watching her friend's reaction. Lucy was ghost pale, processing the information. Alex took over. I had my attorneys look into the escrow documents. Mark was smart. When you signed that power of attorney in the hospital, you gave him unlimited financial authority. He sold your condo, pocketed the equity, and bought the new property under a separate LLC. Your name wasn't on a single document. Legally, he iced you out of the transaction entirely. Every word was a physical blow to Lucy. We found out he was planning to skip town the second the baby was born. He had it all mapped out. The side piece, a new house in Arizona, all paid for with your family's money, Chloe continued, her voice vibrating with suppressed rage. Alex contacted the authorities, and we realized Mark was about to vanish, so we took immediate action. Lucy looked at Alex, who nodded. I pulled some strings. We got the feds involved because wire fraud crossed state lines. They arrested him before he could board a flight out of LAX with the cash. He's sitting in a federal holding cell right now, Lucy. He's being indicted for wire fraud and embezzlement. And my lawyers are currently working with the DA to bring attempted manslaughter charges based on your toxicology report from the ER. Alex spoke calmly, but there was a lethal hardness in his eyes. Nobody hurts you and just walks away. Nobody. Lucy broke down crying again, but this time, it was tears of overwhelming relief mixed with the trauma. You guys did all this for me? Even after I was so horrible to you both? She looked at Chloe, remembering the venomous things she had said in the hospital room. Even after I cut you deep? Chloe hugged her friend tighter. Because I love you, you idiot. You're my sister. I will always go to war for you, even when you're being a blind, stubborn fool. And the money from the condo, did he spend it all? Lucy asked, terrified of the answer. Alex shook his head. Almost all of it was recovered. It's frozen in a court-ordered escrow account until the criminal proceedings finish. After that, it gets wired right back to you, plus interest. We caught him before he could launder it. Lucy couldn't believe it. There was justice. Mark was actually going to pay for what he did. She wasn't entirely ruined. Susan, who had laid Matthew down in a brand new bassinet that was mysteriously set up in the living room, walked over. Honey, I knew in my gut something was wrong. I tried to warn you so many times, but you were just blind with love. Thank God for Chloe and Alex. They never gave up on you. She sat beside her daughter, stroking her hair. You're going to be okay now. We're all going to take care of you and Matthew. I was so stupid, Lucy whispered, staring at the floor. You all tried to warn me, and I refused to listen. I defended a man who only wanted to use me, rob me, and who literally tried to kill my child. How could I have been so blind? Alex pushed off the wall, walked over, and knelt directly in front of her, forcing her to look him in the eyes. You weren't stupid. You loved him. Loving someone isn't a crime. The crime was what he did with your trust. But you survived, you learned from it, and you're going to move forward. Chloe, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry for saying those awful things about David, about you living in the past. I was so wrong. I was only cruel because I was terrified you were right about Mark. Lucy squeezed her friend's hand tight. Chloe smiled, wiping a tear from her cheek. It's already forgotten. But you are going to have to deal with me being insanely overprotective of my nephew now, and you're not allowed to complain. They both let out a watery laugh. After a few minutes of comfortable silence, Susan stood up. I'm going to make a pot of tea. Chloe, come help me. It was an incredibly obvious excuse to leave Alex and Lucy alone. Chloe caught the drift immediately and followed Susan into the kitchen. Lucy and Alex were left alone in the living room, a different kind of silence settling between them. He was still kneeling in front of her, holding her hands. Alex, I need to understand something, Lucy began, looking into those kind eyes that had always felt like home. Why did you do all this for me? We've barely spoken over the last few years. You have your own life, your own business. You could have easily brushed Chloe off when she called you. Why did you get so deeply involved? She needed to know. She needed to understand what fueled this incredible man. Alex gave a sad, crooked smile. Lucy, do you honestly not know? Have you really never realized? He shook his head, almost laughing at himself. In high school, I was head over heels in love with you. Literally everyone knew. Chloe knew. The whole friend group knew. Even Mark knew. Were you the only person on the planet who didn't notice, or were you just pretending? Lucy's eyes went wide, genuinely stunned. How had she missed that? I tried to show you in every way I knew how. I was always around. I stood up for you. I helped you with everything. And the second Mark showed up, I saw exactly what kind of guy he was. I tried to warn you back then, but you were already swept off your feet. Alex gently squeezed her hands. Do you remember that time he supposedly got mugged at the park and I jumped in to save you guys? I found out later it was entirely staged. He paid some guys to do it just to win your sympathy. What? Lucy was in shock. That was staged? But he was bleeding. Alex nodded. Fake blood. They were his theater buddies. He orchestrated the whole thing to play the victim so you would feel sorry for him and never leave him. He was a master manipulator from day one, but you didn't want to see it. When I tried to tell you the truth back then, he accused me of just being a jealous hater, and you believed him. A wave of nausea washed over Lucy. The lies. The endless manipulations spanning years. I was so blind. So foolish. She started crying again. Alex reached up and wiped her tears away with his thumb. You weren't foolish. He was a professional con artist. He was an actor. He knew exactly how to play the character you wanted to see. There was a trace of bitterness in his voice, years of accumulated frustration. After we graduated, I tried to move on, Alex continued. I threw myself into college, built my firm, dated other women. But no relationship ever lasted because I was always comparing them to you. I've always loved you, Lucy. Even from a distance. Even knowing you were with him. I never stopped loving you. So when Chloe called me in a panic saying you were in danger, I didn't hesitate for a single second. Alex, Lucy didn't know what to say. She was processing a decade of information and a hurricane of emotions all at once. You deserved someone so much better than me. Someone who actually saw you, who valued you from the start. I've caused you so much grief, so much pain. He shook his head, cutting her off. You didn't cause me anything. Those were my choices. I chose to love you. I chose to wait. I chose to be right here, right now. But why? Why wait so long for someone who was with another man? Someone who ignored you, who didn't appreciate you? Lucy had to understand. Alex smiled, that soft, steady smile that always made her feel perfectly safe. Because when you truly love someone, you don't just give up. You wait. You want the best for them, and you show up when they need you. And I always knew, deep down, that one day you'd need me. Lucy looked at him. She looked at him truly for the first time since they had reconnected. She saw a strong, successful, gentle, fiercely loyal man. She saw someone who had always been her safety net, even when she didn't deserve one. She saw years of patient, unconditional love. I don't deserve you, she whispered. Let me be the judge of that, Alex replied, lifting her hand to his lips and kissing her knuckles tenderly. Lucy, I know you just survived severe trauma. I know you need time to heal, to process everything. I am not asking you for anything right now. Then why are you telling me all this? She asked, confused. Alex stood up, walked over to his suit jacket, draped over a dining chair, and pulled something from the inner pocket. He returned holding a small velvet box. Because I want you to know that whenever you are ready, whenever you've healed, and you feel ready to start over, I'll be right here waiting, just like I always have been. He opened the box, revealing a simple but breathtakingly elegant diamond engagement ring. Lucy stared at the ring, then at Alex, then back at the ring. Alex, I just had another man's baby. A man who betrayed me, robbed me, and tried to kill my child. I come with heavy emotional baggage now. Why would you possibly want that? He dropped to one knee again, holding the open box. Because I want you. I've wanted you since high school, and I will want you until the day I die. And Matthew is a part of you. Which means I already love him too. I can't accept this right now, Lucy said, staring at the ring through a blur of tears. I am so messed up right now. I'm so hurt. I just found out my entire adult life has been a lie. I need time to figure out who I am again. To heal. Alex snapped the box shut and smiled with total understanding. I know. That's exactly why I'm not asking for an answer today. I just needed you to know that the offer stands. For whenever you're ready, Susan and Chloe walked back in from the kitchen carrying a tray of tea and cookies. It was obvious they had purposely given them enough time to talk. Chloe glanced between Alex and Lucy, trying to read the room. Everything good out here? She asked cautiously. Lucy nodded, drying her eyes. Yeah, everything is good. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Lucy stayed at her mom's apartment, recovering from childbirth and adjusting to her new routine with the baby. Chloe came over every single day, helping with laundry, diapers, whatever was needed. Alex visited constantly too, always bringing a gift for Matthew or grabbing takeout from Lucy's favorite spots. He was attentive without being overbearing, present without suffocating her. He was perfect in a way Lucy had never experienced before. Meanwhile, the federal case against Mark moved swiftly. Alex's lawyers had handed the DA an ironclad case. They had the forged LLC documents, bank wire transfers, testimonies from the ER staff regarding the abortifacients, and even a statement from the other woman, who turned out to have been scammed out of money by him as well. Mark tried to claim it was all a misunderstanding, but the paper trail was undeniable. He was going to prison. It was a done deal. How are you holding up with all this? Chloe asked her one afternoon as they drank iced coffees on Susan's balcony. Lucy was nursing Matthew, gazing down at her son's perfect face. Honestly, some days are harder than others. Sometimes I feel like the biggest idiot on earth for believing him for so long. But then I look at Matt, and I realize that despite everything, I got something incredibly beautiful out of this nightmare. And what about Alex? Chloe asked with a knowing smirk. Where's your head at with him? Lucy blushed. I don't know, Chloe, it's so confusing. He is incredible, he always has been, but I'm terrified. I'm terrified to trust a man again. I'm scared of making another colossal mistake, and I'm terrified I'm too broken for him. Chloe reached over and grabbed her hand. Lucy, Alex has loved you for a decade. He knows exactly who you are, baggage and all, and he loves you anyway. He's not like Mark, he's not playing a role, I know. But what if I ruin it? What if the trauma Mark put me through poisons whatever I could build with Alex? Lucy confessed her deepest fear. Chloe thought about it for a second. Then you put in the work. You go to therapy, you communicate with him, and you build something real, brick by brick. Alex isn't in a rush. He waited 10 years. He can wait a few more months while you heal. Months passed. Lucy started trauma therapy and worked through the emotional wreckage of her abusive relationship. Matthew grew healthy and happy, bringing light to everyone around him. Mark's trial concluded with a judge sentencing him to 5 years in federal prison for wire fraud and embezzlement. The judge was particularly brutal during sentencing, noting the suspected attempt to induce a miscarriage, even though it couldn't be definitively proven beyond a reasonable doubt in criminal court. Through it all, Alex remained a constant, respectful presence. He never pressured Lucy for an answer. He never made her feel obligated. He just simply was the loyal best friend, the rock she needed. Slowly but surely, Lucy began to realize that the feelings she was developing for him were entirely different from whatever she had felt for Mark. These feelings were mature, deep, real. One Saturday afternoon, Lucy asked Alex to meet her at the park they used to hang out at in high school. He arrived feeling a bit anxious, unsure of what to expect. Lucy was sitting on a bench, with Matthew sleeping soundly in his stroller beside her. Alex sat down, waiting for her to speak. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began, watching some older kids play on the swings. About us, about what you offered me, about the future. She turned to look him in the eyes. I'm still scared, Alex. I am still healing. But I realized something. You have always shown up. In high school when I needed help, when Chloe called you in a panic, on the sidewalk outside the hospital when I was completely destroyed, you've always shown up. Alex listened intently, letting her speak. I don't know if I'm ready to walk down an aisle tomorrow, Lucy continued softly. But I want to try. I want to give us a real shot. To build something honest based on actual respect and true love. Do you still want that, knowing it's going to take time? Alex smiled. That warm, steady smile that always made her feel at home. I would wait a lifetime for you, Lucy. A few months, a few years, whatever you need. I'm not going anywhere. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the small velvet box. You don't have to wear this today if you're not ready. But I want you to hold on to it as a symbol of my promise. When you're ready, when you feel totally secure, you let me know. Lucy took the box with trembling hands and popped it open. The diamond caught the California afternoon sun. It was gorgeous, delicate, perfect. She looked at Alex and saw a decade of patient love shining in his eyes. I want to try wearing it, she said softly. Not as a we're getting married next month thing, but as a promise that I am putting in the work to get there. To be the partner that a man like you deserves. Alex carefully pulled the ring from the velvet slot and slid it onto her left ring finger. It fit perfectly, like it was custom made for her because it was. He had ordered it years ago, just hoping for the day he could finally give it to her. 6 months later, Lucy and Alex were married in an intimate, beautiful ceremony in a Malibu vineyard. Chloe stood by her side as the maid of honor, and little Matthew, now walking, was the ring bearer. Susan cried tears of pure joy, watching her daughter finally marry a man who truly cherished her. Even Alex wiped away a tear at the altar as he watched his lifelong dream finally become a reality. Mark remained sitting in a federal penitentiary, paying for his crimes. Through Alex's lawyers, Lucy learned that Mark had run similar scams on other women in the past, always targeting vulnerable, trusting partners. She felt terrible for his past victims, but immensely grateful she had escaped when she did. The money from the condo sale was fully restored to her account, and Lucy used it to launch her own independent graphic design studio. Alex legally adopted Matthew, becoming his father in every sense of the word. They bought a beautiful house in Thousand Oaks with a sprawling backyard for Matt to run around in. Chloe remained a constant fixture in their lives, the cool, overprotective aunt who was always there. Susan visited every weekend, radiant at seeing her daughter finally safe, successful, and deeply loved. Lucy learned the hard way that real love doesn't manipulate. It doesn't lie, and it doesn't use people. Real love waits. It supports. It stays. She watched Alex pushing Matthew on the backyard swing set, her heart overflowing with gratitude. She had been given a second chance. She had found someone who loved her unconditionally. The scars from her past were still there, they probably always would be, but now she had the emotional tools and the rock-solid partner to handle them. Standing on the sidewalk outside that hospital on that terrible day, Lucy had cried, "Where do I go now with my little boy?" believing there was no answer. But the answer had been right there all along, stepping out of a black SUV, holding red roses, carrying a love that had waited years just to be seen. Sometimes, the greatest love stories are the ones that take the longest to unfold, the ones that face impossible betrayals, but ultimately survive because they are genuine, patient, and true. If this story touched your heart, I'm sure the next one, which is already popping up on your screen, will move you even more. Hit that like button, share the video, and tell us in the comments what you thought of this crazy plot twist. Sending you lots of love, and see you next time for another story full of emotion, resilience, and poetic justice. Yeah,